So the old legacy WNBA media did not think this was possible. They did not think this.
The Indiana Fever continued to make massive moves in free agency, signing Sophie Cunningham and DeWanna Bonner. And you guys, I don't even think they're done.
Not everyone in the WNBA is riding high these days. Some players have just struck it rich by joining a team with Caitlin Clark, leaving the rest of the league watching with envy.
So Caitlin Clark is now a member of the new Indiana Fever. Remember what they got the big five. They have five. The top 24 scorers in the WNBA last.
The Fever have crafted something extraordinary around Clark, blending seasoned veterans with up-and-coming stars who thrive alongside one of the best passers the sport has ever seen. While some doubted Indiana's ability to lure top talent, those skeptics were proven wrong. So why are players gravitating towards Indiana while others are left pondering missed opportunities? Let's dive into the details. This shift is a game changer for the WNBA.
So firstly, you guys, Sophie Cunningham was traded to the Indiana Fever for NaLyssa Smith and a pick. The Indiana Fever also acquired forward Jaylen Brown, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I am not familiar with her game. She is going to be only a second-year WNBA player, so we will have to see how her game translates to the Indiana Fever. But Sophie Cunningham was such a huge...
Caitlin Clark hasn't even played a single WNBA game yet, but she's already reshaping the league's landscape. When the Indiana Fever clinched the draft lottery, it wasn't just about snagging a future superstar, it was about transforming the franchise's entire identity. For years, Indiana was seen as a perennial underdog, struggling to define itself and attract marquee talent. Now, everything has changed, and the rest of the league is feeling the shift. The prevailing narrative was that Indiana couldn't possibly lure key free agents. Critics genuinely believed that seasoned veterans and emerging stars wouldn't be keen on joining forces with Caitlin Clark. They assumed she would falter without a solid supporting cast, citing Indiana's market, its history of losing seasons, and the so-called controversies surrounding Clark as deterrents. But here's the truth. Players are driven by the desire to win. In the competitive world of the WNBA, you recognize opportunity when it knocks. Caitlin Clark isn't just a talented player, she's a generational force who makes life easier for her teammates. She's the kind of athlete who gets everyone involved, elevates good players to greatness, and brings out the best in those around her. That's precisely why Natasha Howard decided to make the move to Indiana.
The news just dropped. DeWanna Bonner has been signed to the Indiana Fever. I'm about to knock my light over, bro.
That's why DeWanna Bonner was linked to the Fever, and why Sophie Cunningham ended up donning their jersey. Now, let's take a closer look at Natasha Howard. She's far from an ordinary free agent acquisition. She's a WNBA champion, a former Defensive Player of the Year, and a proven winner. With plenty of choices on the table, she opted for Indiana. And why wouldn't she? Playing alongside Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston is a dream come true. Clark spreads the floor, dishes out open looks, and consistently pushes the pace, while Boston commands attention in the paint as an interior powerhouse. In that dynamic, Howard flourishes. In Indiana, she'll enjoy easier scoring opportunities, more open shots, and the chance to contribute to something truly remarkable. When Howard inked her deal, the reactions were all over the map. Some in the WNBA media, especially those who rarely delve deep into the nuances of the game, acted as if her decision was nothing short of shocking. They clung to the outdated notion of the Fever as the same old underachieving team from a couple of years back. But the truth is, Indiana is no longer that franchise. They've set a clear vision, a star playmaker at the helm, a dominant post presence, and a coaching staff that knows how to build around such talent. It's this vision that's drawing players to Indiana and rendering the old idea that no one would sign there utterly ridiculous. Then there's Sophie Cunningham. The instant she was traded to Indiana, attention turned her way. Cunningham isn't merely a shooter. She's a gritty, high IQ competitor who excels in a system that values ball movement and purposeful play. She doesn't need to hog the ball to make an impact. Instead, she excels in off-ball movement, finding open spaces and delivering those critical extra passes, all essential skills when playing beside Caitlin Clark. And let's not overlook her defensive prowess and tenacious attitude. Cunningham's edge, her disruptive play, and her refusal to back down were exactly what Indiana needed. After all, you don't just want talent, you want mental toughness, battle-tested grit, and a willingness to fight every night. That's what sets this new Fever squad apart. It isn't just a collection of skilled players, it's a perfect fit. Clark, Boston, Mitchell, Cunningham, and Howard together form a lineup with clear identity, one that's poised to compete and catch the league's attention. The rest of the WNBA is taking notice. Teams that once dismissed Indiana are now quietly seething with envy as free agents actively choose Indiana. Those who doubted the impact of Caitlin Clark are starting to see that they miscalculated completely. Clark isn't simply bringing excitement to the court, she's fast-tracking Indiana's transformation into a legitimate contender. Players who once passed on Indiana are now left wondering if they made the wrong choice, because being in Indiana now looks like one of the best opportunities in the league. As the season approaches, the buzz is only intensifying. The WNBA is awakening to a new reality. The Indiana Fever aren't just rebuilding, they're ascending rapidly. And many around the league are starting to feel that intense envy, realizing that the very players who once scoffed at the idea of Indiana might now be regretting their decisions. The Fever have quietly assembled one of the most balanced, well-structured rosters in the league, and it's impossible for other teams not to take notice. For years, Indiana was a team you hardly feared, a mere stepping stone on the schedule, but those days are over. The way they've constructed their roster, the chemistry that's already forming, and the strategic additions they've made are forcing both players and executives across the league to sit up and take notice. Some in the media tried to paint Indiana as an undesirable destination, fixating on external factors and ignoring basic basketball logic. What they missed was simple. Players want to win, and they seek out systems that enhance their abilities. That's exactly what Indiana has created. With Caitlin Clark leading the way, Indiana's style is modern, fast-paced, and unselfish. A system designed to make life easier for every scorer, shooter, and post player. Take Natasha Howard's move, for instance. Critics speculated that her decision was driven by factors off the court, but in reality, Howard made it clear. She craves recognition, victory, and a place where she can truly thrive. Indiana delivered on all fronts. The old media narratives couldn't fathom why someone like Howard would choose Indiana, yet any true student of the game understood immediately. Playing alongside Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston is an ideal situation for a versatile forward like her. She isn't saddled with carrying the offense or forcing plays. Instead, she gets better looks and greater opportunities than she has in years. And consider DeWanna Bonner, who was heavily linked to the Fever. Initially, skeptics questioned why she'd ever opt for Indiana. But why wouldn't she? Indiana offers a team-first, up-tempo style where veteran scorers can extend their careers while remaining highly productive. With Indiana's system, Bonner wouldn't be overburdened with minutes. She'd be surrounded by youthful energy and allowed to focus on what she does best: scoring and leadership. Instead, Bonner remained in Connecticut, a team that, while still competitive, might lack the vibrant, exciting environment Indiana is building. Because here's the bottom line: Indiana is on track to be one of the most exciting teams both to watch and to play for. With Clark's visionary playmaking, Boston's commanding presence in the paint, Mitchell's scoring prowess, Cunningham's grit, and Howard's versatility, the pieces are finally coming together in a way few teams can match. And now, the WNBA is watching closely. Teams that once dismissed Indiana are now rethinking their stance, while players who previously overlooked the Fever are beginning to reconsider. If Indiana makes a deep playoff run this year, and they just might, those who passed on them are going to regret missing out. What's most striking about the Fever's roster is how seamlessly everything fits together. It's not just about possessing talent, it's about having the right kind of talent. Caitlin Clark is not a ball-dominant guard who forces poor shots. She's a cerebral playmaker who involves her teammates, ensuring that scorers like Kelsey Mitchell and Sophie Cunningham get the looks they deserve. Aaliyah Boston isn't just a reliable post presence. She's an elite two-way big who can anchor the defense and dominate on the boards, freeing up her teammates to focus on their roles. Natasha Howard brings veteran savvy and impact on both ends, offering Indiana the switchability and offensive depth they need. When you combine all these elements, you get a team built to win. As the Fever gear up for their inaugural season with Clark at the helm, one question looms large in the WNBA. How soon before other teams try to replicate Indiana's blueprint? Because there's no denying it, the envy is palpable. Players and executives who once wrote off Indiana are now witnessing a transformation in real time. This isn't just about one superstar. It's about a front office that has meticulously constructed a balanced, synergistic roster, forcing everyone to take notice. For years, Indiana was a team you'd barely give a second glance. Today, however, the Fever have redefined themselves through shrewd roster moves, strategic chemistry, and a visionary approach. Some critics in the media clung to outdated perceptions, failing to grasp that players want to win and thrive in systems tailored to their strengths. And with Caitlin Clark steering the ship, Indiana's fast-paced, unselfish style isn't just refreshing, it's revolutionary. The signing of players like Natasha Howard, along with the buzz surrounding Bonner and Cunningham, signals a new era for the Fever. In a few short months, the Indiana Fever have transformed from an afterthought into one of the league's most coveted destinations. The pieces are finally in place, the chemistry is undeniable, and the envy from across the WNBA is unmistakable. It all comes down to one thing. Caitlin Clark has changed everything. Her arrival has not only elevated the talent on Indiana's roster, but has also created an environment where players genuinely want to be. And as the league watches this transformation unfold, it's becoming increasingly clear that Indiana isn't just back in the game, they're here to change it. Get ready, WNBA fans, because the season just delivered one of its most electrifying finales yet. As the curtains close on this year's action-packed games, Phoenix Mercury's standout Sophie Cunningham, teammate of the legendary Diana Taurasi, has sparked intense conversations with her bold comments about Caitlin Clark that have everyone buzzing. But that's only scratching the surface. Caitlin Clark didn't just shine this season. She redefined what's possible on the court. From shattered records and jaw-dropping plays to leading the Indiana Fever through an unexpected transformation, her impact was undeniable. And here's the twist. Some of the league's seasoned veterans are feeling the heat. Yes, you heard right. This rising star made such waves that it stirred the egos of established stars. Stay tuned as we break down all the highlights and dive into Cunningham's remarks that have everyone talking. In a recent interview, Sophie shared this eye-opening insight about Caitlin Clark.
But I think they've done a great job in the league as well. I think the physicality and all that they're going to get used to, but I think especially Caitlin Clark, she's been killing it. And I'm a huge fan, and I never say that, but I think it's fun what she's doing.
Can you believe what's unfolding in the WNBA? a seasoned teammate of the legendary Diana Taurasi, is openly lauding a rookie, and that's a rare sight in the league. Sophie Cunningham isn't stopping there. She went on to say, "When it comes to viewership, man, I think a lot of people have a lot to learn about our league. But I think that's a really fun thing. If you have anything negative to say about the viewership and everything this rookie class is doing, I just think you're not capitalizing on it and you might be a little jealous." Sophie just unleashed a bombshell against anyone criticizing Caitlin Clark's success and her fellow rookies. Essentially, she's arguing that if you're not thrilled about the league's growth, the issue lies with you. But why is Sophie, an established player, so passionately defending Caitlin Clark and the new rookies? The answer is straightforward: impact. Clark isn't just excelling on the court, she's reshaping the perception of the WNBA. Since her debut, viewership has surged. Stadiums that once had empty seats are now buzzing with fans. People aren't just tuning in to Indiana Fever games. They're buying tickets, jerseys, and buzzing about the WNBA on social media like never before. And here's the kicker. Clark is achieving all this as a rookie. She didn't need years to adapt or build a fan base. She arrived and is already a force to be reckoned with. That's why Sophie and other insightful players recognize that Clark's success translates to the WNBA's success as a whole. But Clark's influence goes beyond scoring. She's redefining the point guard role in the WNBA. Her assists are masterpieces. She spots angles that others miss and delivers passes that leave commentators in awe. The craziest part? She's doing all this while facing defenses specifically designed to stop her. Entire teams have had to rethink their strategies just to contain Caitlin Clark, yet she continues to dominate. This is why veterans like Sophie Cunningham are so impressed. Clark isn't just playing well, she's changing the game, forcing teams and players to adapt and elevate the entire league. Now, let's dive into what Cunningham mentioned that's stirring up the league: the jealousy and criticism targeting Caitlin Clark. It sounds unbelievable, right? A rookie shaking up the league to the point of making veterans envious? But that's the reality. Some players and fans are complaining about the spotlight Clark is stealing, claiming it overshadows more experienced players. But let's be honest, this is pure jealousy. As Sophie Cunningham aptly pointed out, those who gripe about Clark's visibility aren't capitalizing on it and might just be a little envious. And she's spot on. Clark's success doesn't take away from any other player's value. In fact, increased attention benefits everyone in the WNBA. More fans mean more revenue, which can lead to higher salaries, better playing conditions, and more opportunities for all players. Clark is expanding the league's market, attracting new fans who might never have watched a WNBA game before. Once hooked, these fans aren't just following Clark, they're discovering all the incredible talent the league has to offer. That's why savvy players like Cunningham are embracing the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. They understand that a rising tide lifts all boats. Clark's triumphs are the WNBA's triumphs. And let's face it, Clark deserves all the hype. She's not just racking up numbers, she's redefining what's possible in women's basketball. Her passes, court vision, and scoring ability are at a level rarely seen from a rookie. So to those feeling jealous or critical, here's some advice. Instead of complaining, ride the wave. Use this surge in attention to showcase your own talents. Because what Caitlin Clark is doing is opening doors for all WNBA players. Moreover, Clark's impact on the WNBA's popularity is likely to keep rising. We're already witnessing a significant boost in viewership and fan engagement. If this trend continues, we could be on the verge of a new golden era for professional women's basketball, leading to more investments in the league, better contracts for players, increased media coverage, and possibly even expansion to new cities. The possibilities are endless, Additionally, Clark is inspiring the next generation. How many young athletes are watching her now, dreaming of becoming the next Caitlin Clark? She's fueling a new wave of talent that will only strengthen the WNBA further. Finally, let's consider Clark's legacy. If she maintains this trajectory, we're not just talking about a great player. We could be witnessing the rise of one of the greatest of all time. She has the potential to be to the WNBA what legends like Michael Jordan and LeBron James are to the NBA. However, it's not all smooth sailing. As Clark continues to dominate and draw attention, the pressure mounts. Expectations are sky high. She set a tremendous standard in her rookie season, and everyone expects her to surpass it every game. What happens if she has a bad night or goes through a scoring slump? Critics will be quick to pounce. Then there's the physical toll. The WNBA season is long and demanding, especially for a rookie. Clark is logging more minutes, facing tougher defenses, and traveling extensively. Can she maintain this level of performance through the season and into the playoffs? And let's not overlook the mental strain. With every move scrutinized and every word analyzed, the pressure is immense. Will she be able to stay focused and continue performing at an elite level? So, what do you think? Will Caitlin Clark keep dominating and break all the records we've discussed? Or will other teams find a way to challenge her? And what are your thoughts on Sophie Cunningham's comments? Do you agree that the criticism Clark is facing stems from jealousy? Or do you believe there are legitimate concerns?
At the end of the day, the way Indiana came at me with everything they promised me and they keeping their promise, they sold me. And I took the bait for it, and I'm happy to be back where I started and also being back with Coach. So, and Kelly, and also Amber as well, bringing her along. It's just a blessing to be back where I started, and also for my family and friends to also see me back where I started at as well. It's just amazing and a grateful feeling to be back in a Indiana Fever jersey.
What happens when a three-time WNBA champion teams up with one of the most hyped players in recent memory? Natasha Howard's move to the Indiana Fever isn't just a trade, it's a seismic shift. But here's the burning question. How will Howard, a battle-tested veteran, sync up with Caitlin Clark? The chemistry between them could either elevate the Fever to new heights or leave them stuck in neutral. In this video, we're diving deep into how Howard's arrival could turn this team into WNBA champions and what she really thinks about playing alongside Clark in Indiana. Plus, stick around for an exclusive bombshell about Howard that no one saw coming. Ready? Let's dive in.
When I was on that stage press conference, I kind of got emotional a little bit. Like, wow, I'm back here again where I started. And just how Stephanie White was speaking so highly of me. Like, I'm like, this is where I need to be at, and this is where I belong. And I'm just so happy to be able to come back and handle some unfinished business.
Imagine this. A three-time WNBA champion steps into the Indiana Fever's locker room. But this isn't just any player. It's Natasha Howard, back where it all started for her. This homecoming has everyone buzzing, and trust us, there's a lot more to this story than meets the eye.
The list of accomplishments are long. People say you should have a one-page resume. Natasha cannot have that. It is several pages. Three-time champion, two-time All-Star, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player. I mean, again, the list goes on and on and on.
Let's hit rewind for a second. Howard's journey began right here in Indiana, when the Fever picked her with the 5th overall selection in the 2014 WNBA draft. Fast forward to today, and she's no longer just another player. She's a battle-tested veteran with multiple championships to her name. So why, after all she's achieved, would someone of her caliber choose to return to a young, rising team like the Fever? She could have landed anywhere. What's truly behind Howard's decision to come back?
This is a tremendous, not only a tremendous player, but a tremendous person. And what she's done the last 9 years in her career has put her in the elite company of many athletes and many players in this league. So I want to say thank you to Natasha and to her family for coming back to us. Because when a player returns to a place that drafted them, that's special. And she chose us because she could have gone anywhere.
The answer? It might surprise you. When Howard walked into the Fever's facility, she was hit hard by seeing her original 2014 Fever jersey. "It's a blessing to be back," she said, and with Stephanie White speaking so highly of her, it was clear Howard felt right where she belonged. This isn't just about basketball for her, it's about returning home. But there's more. Howard's mentioned unfinished business from her first stint with the Fever, specifically the 2015 finals, where they came close but fell short. That loss has stayed with her, and now she's back to make it right. Now, you might be wondering just how good Natasha Howard really is. Last season, she averaged 18 points and 7 rebounds per game. That's not just good, that's elite, putting her in the same league as some of the best in the game.
Last season, with a minimum of 25 games played, Natasha Howard was one of just 13 players to average 18 points per game. She was one of 16 players to average 7 rebounds per game. And the list of players to average both 18 and 7 last year, short and elite. Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, Brittany Griner, and yes, Natasha Howard.
Here's where things get really exciting. The Fever aren't just adding a star, they're adding a game changer. Howard's versatility is through the roof. She can stretch the floor, create opportunities for her teammates, and give opposing defenses nightmares. For a young core like the Fevers, with players like Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell, this is massive.
But all of that, and we haven't yet touched upon what Howard does best: defend. Howard was named Defensive Player of the Year in 2019 and has finished in the top 10 of the Defensive Player of the Year voting 3 times in her career. Howard has averaged at least 1 block and 1 steal per game in each of her last 7 seasons. And that versatility is really what makes her a weapon on defense.
So, can one player really turn things around for a team? In this case, it just might. The Fever have been rebuilding for a while and have plenty of young talent. But what they've lacked is a veteran who knows how to win when it matters. That's where Howard steps in. What does Howard see in this young Fever team? It's not just about talent, it's about untapped potential. She's here to build something special. In her own words, "I want to show this young group what it takes to win a championship. You can't take any days off in practice. It's the way you play." This isn't just about adding another star. It's about reshaping the team's entire culture.
We have the talent, but first of all, we have the people to actually do it. So my thing is, like, I'm happy, like I said, to be a part of this and also bring the leadership and the desire to, to show the young group what it takes to win a championship. I have 3, so my thing is like to show them you can't take no days off in practice. You gotta think, like, you practice, it's the way how you play. So my thing, like, coming in, I'm just gonna show them, like, this is how you work hard. So when you work hard, it's gonna be easy in the game. It won't be as hard. So my thing is just bringing that championship mentality to the locker room and to this team and just guiding this team.
The Fever's management is absolutely thrilled about Howard's return, and it's easy to understand why. They're not just adding a top-tier player, they're gaining a leader, a mentor, someone who can guide their young stars on the path to success in the league. Howard's character and leadership are exactly what this team needs to level up and make that next big leap.
Whether she was on the floor or not, she was mentoring young players. She was giving direction, advice, and was always selfless in everything that she did. And I tell you what, guys, I fell in love with her. I was so excited about the opportunity to bring her here. Natasha, thank you so much for your faith and your trust in us. I think this is going to be an awesome experience, and welcome home.
Let's talk about the superstar sensation that's got the entire league buzzing. Caitlin Clark's arrival in the WNBA. It's created a whirlwind of excitement. But does all that hype really hold up? If you ask Natasha Howard, the answer is a definite yes.
Just really excited to also play with Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, like the player that, that I also say stuff on the court to them when I'm like playing against them. But I'm happy that I'm playing with them, not against them no more.
Picture this. A 3-time WNBA champion hitting the court next to a point guard who just rewrote WNBA history in her freshman season. You'd think there might be some tension, right? After all, Howard's made it clear she wants to shine in her return to Indiana. But here's the twist. Howard isn't just excited about playing with Clark. She's genuinely thrilled.
Apparently, there's a WNBA player named A'ja Wilson. Apparently, she's pretty good. Caitlin Clark brings it down, goes twice between her legs, step back, jack. A'ja Wilson doesn't like that. A'ja Wilson isn't smart enough to understand that everybody's going to get fat because of Caitlin Clark. Everybody won't get fat if they keep bringing up the ridiculous, idiotic, and tired old notion of racism.
A'ja Wilson has ignited a blazing storm of drama, challenging Caitlin Clark in a manner that's capturing everyone's attention. Is this the fiercest rivalry in WNBA history? A'ja Wilson, a 3-time WNBA MVP, has been unstoppable on the court with astonishing stats and consecutive outstanding seasons. She's undeniably one of the league's greatest athletes. However, A'ja isn't just letting her performance speak for itself. She's making her presence felt loudly and clearly off the court as well.
A'ja Wilson, who whined and moaned and continues to whine and moan that Caitlin Clark is only popular because she's white, couldn't be more.
In a recent intense interview, A'ja Wilson made some significant statements that are stirring up the basketball community. She didn't just challenge Caitlin Clark. She alluded to a more profound issue that's been simmering beneath the surface for some time. Caitlin Clark, the emerging star and generational talent, has dominated both college basketball and the WNBA spotlight. With her electrifying performances and bold attitude, she's become the center of attention. However, A'ja isn't on board with this. Why is Caitlin Clark receiving all the attention? My achievements last season alone surpass her entire career. And if that wasn't enough, A'ja went a step further by claiming that the primary reason Caitlin garners so much hype is because she's white.
Hey, look, we love Steph Curry as a black man because of how he plays. We'll give two craps about Steph Curry or Caitlin Clark being white, black, green, or purple. When in doubt, yell racism, and when in doubt, look stupid doing it. And the latest is this moron named A'ja Wilson.
A'ja Wilson has ignited a full-scale drama, publicly challenging Caitlin Clark in a way that's sparking widespread conversations. Could this be the most intense feud in WNBA history? A'ja Wilson, a 3-time WNBA MVP, has been unstoppable on the court with impressive statistics and back-to-back stellar seasons. She's unquestionably one of the league's premier athletes. However, A'ja isn't just letting her on-court prowess speak for itself. She's making her stance known loudly and clearly off the court as well. A'ja didn't stop with Caitlin Clark. She also brought Paige Buchers into the conversation, with Paige set to join the WNBA soon. A'ja is already asserting that she's not getting the spotlight she deserves because she is a black woman. Her frustration seems to stem from feeling overlooked, questioning why her MVP seasons, record-breaking performances, and championships aren't making her the face of the league. But here's where things get wild. A'ja suggested that Caitlin Clark should face a lifetime ban for what she described as a lack of respect for the game and its pioneers. What does that even mean? The internet exploded. Fans are taking sides, with some agreeing that race plays a role in media narratives, while others believe A'ja is going too far. Here's what she had to say. I think it's a huge thing. A lot of people may say it's not about black or white, but to me, it is. It really is, because you can be top-notch at what you are as a black woman, but yet that's something that people don't want to see. They don't see it as marketable, so it doesn't matter how hard I work. It doesn't matter what we do as black women. we're still going to get swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it really is. Players like Breanna Stewart and Diana Taurasi have reportedly weighed in. A'ja Wilson is the queen of the WNBA, but Caitlin Clark is box office. The debate over A'ja Wilson and Caitlin Clark isn't just about stats or accolades, it's about what defines greatness in the WNBA and who deserves the spotlight. Is this frustration rooted in jealousy and an inability to accept that Caitlin Clark has changed the game in ways A'ja never has? A'ja Wilson plays for the Las Vegas Aces, a team so stacked with talent that they could probably win games with half the roster. Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Gray, and Jackie Young are not just supporting players, they're stars in their own right. With teammates like these, A'ja has the luxury of playing in a system that allows her to excel without carrying the entire load. In fact, if we're being honest, Kelsey Plum deserves more credit than she gets. Her playmaking, scoring, and ability to take over games make life significantly easier for A'ja. If Kelsey wasn't there to pick up the slack, would A'ja still be an MVP? That's debatable. It's worth noting that MVP stands for Most Valuable Player, not Best Player on a stacked team. Without Kelsey, A'ja's numbers and impact would likely shrink. So when A'ja claims she's the league's most valuable player, one has to wonder, valuable to whom? The Aces could probably still dominate without her, but the same cannot be said for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. While A'ja thrives in the league, Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA as the savior of a struggling franchise. The Indiana Fever had been floundering for years, a team barely making headlines and far from playoff contention. Then Caitlin arrived. In just 8 months, she turned a forgettable team into a playoff contender. Her presence forced her teammates to elevate their game, and her leadership has been nothing short of transformative. Unlike A'ja, Caitlin doesn't have the luxury of multiple all-stars sharing the load. She's the sole centerpiece, carrying the team on her back while navigating the immense pressure of being a rookie in the spotlight. A'ja might want to criticize Caitlin's recognition, but she hasn't faced the kind of uphill battle that Caitlin has in her first season. One of A'ja's loudest complaints is about the awards Caitlin has received. While A'ja is proud of her MVP title, it's clear that Caitlin's recognition as WNBA Player of the Year and Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year has struck a nerve. These accolades highlight Caitlin's unparalleled contributions to the game, both on and off the court. Here's the difference. A'ja's MVP is tied to team success. Caitlin's awards recognize her individual brilliance and the broader impact she's had on the league. The MVP award is often debated, but Player of the Year and Athlete of the Year make one thing clear. Caitlin's influence transcends basketball. She's not just a great player, she's a cultural phenomenon.
I think, kind of how you mentioned earlier, just finding the rhythm, finding the confidence in game. Shooting 25 shots in a row in practice is different than getting your 4 looks in a game and not being able to knock them down and having the confidence to continue shooting them. So I think just getting the opportunity in that second half of the season and seeing them go in and then continuing to get those open looks really just fed that confidence. And I think that hot streak towards the end.
I couldn't bring myself to face my teammates anymore. We just longed for it to end. These chilling remarks from Lexi Hull shook the WNBA landscape in her latest explosive interview. Hull finally speaks out about the Indiana Fever's 2024 season with Caitlin Clark. What transformed this struggling squad into championship contenders? Why did Hull's bond with Clark surprise everyone? Hull uncovers the team's secrets, locker room tensions, and the truth behind their legendary turnaround. You won't believe what truly happened behind closed doors.
I mean, the numbers support it. We obviously know it is a truism, but even last year, where the numbers were not where you wanted them to be, when you played 10 to 19 minutes, you shot 11% from three. When you played 20 to 29, it was 22%. You played north of 30 minutes, you were 33%. You were finding it as you went, and then obviously you've elevated all of those levels in the process. Was there a moment that, when you're talking to Christy Sides early on, where you're being told, I am going to get more of this playing time, more of this opportunity? And does that help feed your confidence as well?
The 2024 season kicked off as a relentless nightmare for the Indiana Fever. Lexi Hull reclines in her chair, takes a deep breath, and reveals what truly transpired during those grueling early weeks. 11 games in just 20 days. It still sounds unbelievable, even when she recounts it now. She shakes her head in disbelief. This wasn't merely a tough schedule, it was the most intense stretch the WNBA had witnessed since 2003.
I mean, honestly, I can't really pinpoint a moment. It was, I think, just I was given a chance in a game, and I hit a couple early ones, and then you get a couple more minutes, and you hit another one and you get a couple more minutes. So it wasn't ever like I was told you're going to be playing today, make sure you take advantage of it. It was just,
Right.
When you're sitting on that bench and you don't know when your number is going to be called, and when it finally is called, just trying to take advantage of it. And I was just happy that the ball went in.
We were trudging back to the hotel at 2 a.m. after a game, and guess what? Another game awaited us the very next night. Hull discloses that the team was completely drained, barely having the chance to analyze game footage, let alone train. The physical toll was unmistakable. Ice packs, trips to the training room, and fatigued faces became commonplace in the Fever locker room. Yet, the mental strain was even more intense. Hull's voice softens as she recalls those dark times. Doubts begin to creep in. Your shots miss, your legs feel heavy, and the losses keep stacking up. It messes with your mind. The team's record plummeted to 2-11, a start that left fans and the media questioning whether the Fever could ever turn things around.
Do you know what you shot from three? You shot 66.7% from three. When you went out there, there's no such thing as tired legs in that scenario. You are 2 and 3. No one does that. No one. I mean, it's just incredible.
The pressure became unbearable. Every missed shot felt personal, and each loss deepened our doubts. Hull remembers sitting alone in the gym after a tough defeat. My three-point percentage had dropped to 11%, and I couldn't make a basket like I did at Stanford. Coach Christy Sides saw the team struggling and called a meeting that changed everything. Hull's eyes light up as she recounts. Coach didn't yell or give a speech. She listened. For 3 hours, we shared our struggles. It felt like a weight was lifted. We realized we weren't alone. The next day, everything changed. Practices focused on small victories, strong defense, perfect passes, and supporting each other after mistakes. Coach told us to stop watching the scoreboard and start looking at each other, Hull explains. This shift turned the Fever around, transforming them into championship contenders.
When did you know that it was finally going to click for you? I mean, yeah, you hit 4 threes early on in the year, on May 25th against Las Vegas. There were signs early on that you were finding it. This before you even were starting. Was there a moment where it felt like this was finally happening? And again, was there any sort of off-season change? Was there anything that you were doing differently that helped this happen? Or does the ball just start going through the hoop for you?
May the 25th, 2024, the game that changed everything. The Fever faced Las Vegas, the league's powerhouse, and nobody expected them to win. I wasn't slated for major minutes, but then something magical happened. The first 3 shots went in, and it felt different, Hull recalls, imitating her shooting motion. By the 4th shot, the crowd was wild. Hull had found her groove and confidence. This led to one of the most remarkable turnarounds in WNBA history. Her shooting soared from 11% to 47.1% from three-point range. When the coach gave me more minutes, everything clicked, she explains. In games with over 30 minutes, she shot an incredible 66.7% from beyond the arc.
I think for me, we have some incredible playmakers on our team and incredible people that can get you the ball when you're open and create advantages. And so me being one of those people that I'm spacing the floor and I need to knock down those shots. So not only, holding myself accountable to do that as my role and hit those open looks, but also being able to stand up for my teammates and say, thank you. You're doing the work, you're doing the hard work, and I'll be here and I'll knock it down when I need to.
But the numbers only tell part of the story. The true transformation happened during practice. Hull reveals their secret weapon, midnight sessions after games. While most teams slept, we were in the gym. Coach Sides would spread out the balls and say, "Show me you want it." These late-night practices became legendary. Veterans mentored rookies, and players with limited minutes pushed the starters in scrimmages. The team developed unique signals, inside jokes, and a chemistry beyond basketball. We became more than teammates, Hull says. We became family. Her shooting routine was almost religious, 500 shots before and after practice. She studied film of her successful games, perfecting her form. As her shots improved, the team's chemistry off the court strengthened too. They began having team dinners, movie nights, and community service events. Fighting alongside people you care about hits different, Hull explains. Then everything changed when Caitlin Clark joined the Indiana Fever's practice facility. Lexi Hull recalls, the energy was different. Media and fans surrounded the gym. Hull laughs about her first practice with Clark. I had to rewire my brain, she admits. I'd be running to the basket, and suddenly the ball was in my hands. Caitlin found impossible angles. The chemistry between Clark and Hull developed quickly. They stayed after practice to work on timing and understanding each other. Caitlin would say, "If you get to this spot, I'll find you every time," and she did. But the pressure to perform intensified under the national spotlight. There were games where we felt the weight of expectations and constant attention. It tests you mentally, Hull admits. From nearly quitting to becoming one of the WNBA's deadliest shooters, Lexi Hull's journey with the Indiana Fever is about never giving up. Did you catch the latest? Ben Shapiro just took down Washington Mystics owner Sheila Johnson over her ridiculous comments about Caitlin Clark.
So one of the bizarre controversies of the last week is Caitlin Clark, who is the WNBA's only nameable star. Here, for example, is WNBA team owner Sheila Johnson. Here she is, ripping Caitlin Clark and the fan base for liking Caitlin Clark, saying it's only because Caitlin Clark is white.
In what might as well be an Olympic gold medal for bad takes, Sheila's claiming that Clark didn't deserve Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year title, basically suggesting that everyone in the WNBA should be recognized, except for Caitlin Clark.
Why couldn't they have put the whole WNBA on that cover and said the WNBA is the league of the year because of all the talent that we have? Because when you just keep singling out one player, it creates hard feelings. And so now you're starting to hear stories of racism within the WNBA, and I don't want to hear that. We have got to operate and become stronger as a league and respect everybody that's playing.
You heard that right. This is the ultimate everybody gets a trophy mentality, but cranked up to the max. Shapiro wasted no time shredding Johnson's argument, using his signature rapid-fire style to highlight just how ridiculous her position really is.
You're not putting the entire WNBA on the cover because not everybody can fit and nobody knows who any of those people are. By the way, 31% apparently of the entire Washington Mystics ticket sales this year came in 2 games. I will give you a guess as to which player was featured in those 2 games.
Exactly. Not everyone can fit inside the spotlight, and definitely not the entire WNBA. As for this talk of upliftment, let's not forget that 31% of the Washington Mystics' annual revenue has come from games featuring Caitlin Clark and her team. Are we seriously supposed to pretend Caitlin Clark isn't single-handedly bringing fresh energy to a league that's been struggling to stay relevant?
Look, I'm going to be completely honest about this. I thought what Wizards owner Sheila Johnson said about Caitlin Clark came off as racist. Sheila Johnson is the black billionaire owner of the NHL's Washington Capitals, the NBA's Washington Wizards, and the WNBA's Washington Mystics. Johnson said she did not agree with Time magazine making Caitlin Clark the first ever WNBA player to be Athlete of the Year.
Sheila's claim that Caitlin Clark's success somehow undermines the rest of the league definitely carries a whiff of something darker. It's hard to ignore how that perspective reeks of racism, whether she intended it or not.
And with putting Caitlin Clark on the cover. Johnson said the entire WNBA should have been chosen as the League of the Year and that numerous stars should have been put on the cover. She said the WNBA has a long legacy of black stars and that, and I quote, "Something clicked with the WNBA last year because of the draft. It's not just Caitlin Clark, it's Reese." As in, of course, Chicago's Angel Reese.
Seriously? Angel Reese doesn't even come close to Caitlin Clark, both in skill and popularity. So why is Sheila so eager to downplay Clark's accomplishments? It's almost like she's trying to diminish something that clearly stands out on its own.
Johnson said, and I quote, "There's so much talent out there that's unrecognized, and I don't think we can pin it on just one player. When you single out one, it creates hard feelings," end of quote. Johnson said, "What's been happening to black players on social media," and I quote, "has got to stop," in that, and I quote again, "this division of racism is going to tear us apart," end quote.
Exactly. Are we seriously going to stop celebrating a player just because others are feeling threatened or jealous? That doesn't sit right, does it? This is straight up unfair treatment. Sheila should be recognizing greatness, not trying to undermine it.
Johnson is saying to me, the majority of WNBA players are black and have always been black, that basketball belongs more to black players than to white, and that it's not healthy for the league to have a white player featured as Athlete of the Year on the cover of Time. Now, I'm pretty sure if WNBA MVP Asia Wilson had made the cover of Time as Athlete of the Year, Johnson wouldn't have had any problem with that. Just not the white girl.
Absolutely. What Sheila's implying is that we should start picking and choosing who gets praise based on the color of their skin, rather than their talent or achievements. It's absurd on so many levels, and frankly, it's a huge disservice to the game and the players who deserve recognition.
But this person put this on as a quote to this video. Sheila Johnson's worth $850 million, and she doesn't put a penny back into the neighborhood she comes from. Very interesting. She doesn't even come back to her high school to show little black girls that they can become her. My little cousins go to the same high school. They don't even know she exists. Very interesting indeed.
Did you catch that? It turns out Sheila might be guilty of the very thing she's accusing Caitlin Clark of. That's right. She supposedly doesn't do charity or encourage the black kids in her community to become billionaires like herself. Talk about hypocrisy at its finest, folks.
Well, the league has always been woke, has always had an agenda. The league and the sports media, the establishment sports media that is, and they're surrogates. Always. And they pride themselves on that.
It's become pretty clear that the WNBA has a lot of politics playing out behind the scenes. Could this be what's been holding the league back all these years? It's hard not to wonder if these power struggles and biases are part of the reason the league hasn't reached the level of recognition and success it deserves.
But since Caitlin Clark stepped into the waters with the Time magazine interview, it's almost like you're gonna see more people, more comments, more demands. You're going to see it's going to be less and less about basketball, what you want to see, and it's going to be a whole lot of this stuff, because it's like she ripped off another layer of the onion, and this one is a big one. And so now people feel like they can just go all in.
Exactly. Sheila's opposition to Caitlin Clark seems rooted in the fact that, like many so-called woke figures, she's recognized that Clark isn't playing by the usual political playbook. Instead of bending to certain narratives or pushing an agenda, Clark is simply focused on earning her success through talent. And that's something that doesn't sit well with people who expect athletes to follow their scripted roles.
But this, of course, is the Mystics owner that said that Caitlin Clark should give up her Time Magazine award and give it to the entire WNBA. Of course, that has now become a running joke, and the mother of all community checks came down here and nailed her. 31% of Mystics' total home attendance for the 2024 season came from the 2 games versus Caitlin Clark and the Fever.
Newsflash, Sheila, sports thrive on competition, not on the equality of outcome. Claiming that Caitlin Clark doesn't deserve to be singled out is like saying LeBron James should share his accolades with the benchwarmers just because of team effort. That's not how greatness works. Individual brilliance deserves recognition, and Clark has earned every bit of it.
It's important that we say, you know what? You want to go all in? You want to go in, people with a lot of nonsense? Then guess what? We're going to go in too, and we're going to expose the nonsense.
Exactly. A lot of these racist attitudes flourish when there's no pushback or challenge. That's why speaking out isn't just an option, it's a responsibility. If we stay silent, we're allowing these harmful views to persist unchecked. It's crucial to stand up and call out hypocrisy when we see it.
What it is. A lot of times, like you, we're just like, we just want to let's just play basketball. But then when they start saying nonsense, like when the owner of a WNBA team, Sheila Johnson, Washington Mystics, when she says some of the stuff like she said that people are talking about today, it's like, okay, you want to play hardball? Then let's play.
Absolutely. Caitlin Clark isn't just a great player. She's a mythical juggernaut and a cultural icon. She's rewriting the rules of the game, and her numbers prove it. She's not just good, she's the best. And anyone who tries to deny that is ignoring the undeniable facts.